Meruem is the most terrifying, overpowered villain in anime. Stronger than anyone, faster than anyone, completely unstoppable. And yet, his story is a tragedy. How does a being so powerful, so untouchable, end up dying in the most human way possible? Overpowered characters are often the death sentence for good storytelling. They kill tension, they break immersion, they make conflicts feel pointless. How many times have we seen OP characters who have no real struggle, no real depth, just a walking power fantasy? Kirito from SAO, Fairy Tail's endless power-ups, Dragon Ball Z's never-ending villain cycle. It's always the same problem. Characters start strong, they stay strong, and eventually the story bends to make sure they always win. That's why most OP characters feel hollow. But what happens when an overpowered character is done right? The exception, Meruem. Meruem is different. His strength doesn't just serve the plot, it defies his character. He is born at the top of the food chain, the ruler of all life, but his strength isn't what makes him truly terrifying. It's the fact that his power doesn't stay static. He grows, he learns, he evolves. From a merciless conqueror to something almost human. But can a monster ever truly change? And when the strongest being on the planet finally finds something worth protecting, what happens when it's too late? Chapter 2: The Monster That Became Human. Meruem wasn't just strong, he was born at the top. The Chimera Ant Queen's ultimate creation, a being destined to rule, evolved from consuming the strongest of each species. His power wasn't a fluke, it was natural escalation, the logical conclusion of generations of biological perfection. From the moment of his birth, he established dominance instantly, ripping himself from his mother's womb, killing her without hesitation. His subordinates feared him. His enemies were nothing more than pests, and to him, humanity existed to be devoured. He had no rivals, no equals, no reason to doubt himself. But the greatest overpowered characters aren't just about strength. They have something else, something that makes them unforgettable. But this is the flaw in absolute power. Meruem's story could have ended there. He could have been just another final boss, a king ruling through fear, destined to be struck down by a hero's last-minute power-up. But that never happens. Because Meruem wasn't just strong, he was intelligent. He wasn't just a monster, he was evolving. His downfall wasn't through brute force. It started with a simple, fragile, blind girl. Komugi was everything Meruem despised. Weak, frail, defenseless. No physical ability, no combat power, no value in his world of strength. Yet she destroyed him over and over again. A blind woman girl defeating the strongest being on the planet? Not in battle, but in a game. Gungi. A game of strategy, adaptation, and intellect. And no matter how many times Meruem tried, he couldn't win. He felt frustration for the first time he ever struggled at something. He wanted to understand why she was better, which made him curious. And for the first time, he called a human by name, showing respect. This was the moment Meruem began to change, because for the first time in his life, he questioned what strength truly meant. Chapter 3: The Humanization of Meruem. Meruem was never meant to change. He was created as the perfect predator, a king ruling by sheer dominance. But through Komugi, he began to see something beyond power. He started to feel. He questioned his own cruelty, something unthinkable at the start of the arc. He started calling his subordinates by name, a shift from treating them as expendable pawns. And most importantly, he protected instead of destroyed. The king of beasts was becoming human. But even as he grew, his world refused to change with him. No matter how much he evolved, Meruem was still the enemy. Netero, the strongest hunter, never saw him as anything but a threat. And the world had already decided Meruem had to die. His strength, his intelligence, his growth, it didn't matter. Meruem's greatest tragedy wasn't that he was a monster, but that no one gave him a chance to be anything else. This is what separates him from every OP villain. He wasn't defeated because he was strong. He wasn't a mindless conqueror brought down by a hero. He was an evolving being, someone who might have changed the world if given the right time. But time wasn't on his side. But even as he grows, his fate is already sealed. Chapter 4: The Tragic Yet Perfect Conclusion. Meruem's greatest challenge wasn't a warrior equal to him. It wasn't a rival, a hero, or a rebellion. It was an old man with a bomb inside his chest. For Netero was never meant to win this fight. He knew it. Humanity had no answer to Meruem's strength. No technique, no strategy could win against him. The strongest hunter in the world was completely outclassed. But this was never about winning. It was about sending a message. It was about fear. No matter how much Meruem had grown, he was still too powerful for humanity to allow him to live. So they did what humans always do when faced with something they can't control. They destroyed it. The final blow, the poison that killed a god. Netero's final act wasn't a battle move. It wasn't a secret technique. It was a nuclear weapon. The miniature rose, a symbol of war, destruction, and humanity's willingness to win at all costs. It didn't matter that Meruem had changed. It didn't matter that he was no longer a monster. His strength alone was a death sentence. And yet, Meruem didn't rage. He didn't curse humanity. Instead, he simply wanted to spend his final moments with Komugi. The strongest being in the world died peacefully, embracing the very weakness he once despised. A creature of ultimate power died choosing love, not destruction. And in the end, Meruem wasn't defeated by an enemy. He was defeated by humanity itself. Chapter 5: Why Meruem's ending is perfect. Most overpowered villains die in battle. They are defeated by some last-minute power-up, a hero's final stand, or some shonen plot twist. But Meruem wasn't defeated. He outclassed his enemies. He surpassed his nature. He evolved beyond the role of a villain. And yet the world wasn't ready for him. His story is one of the greatest tragedies in anime. Not because he was too strong, but because he was too human in the end. For real strength isn't just about power, it's about what you choose to do with it. And that's what makes Meruem the greatest overpowered antagonist of all time. Why Meruem is one of the best anime villains. Meruem isn't just an overpowered villain. He's a perfectly written tragedy. A monster who became human too late. His story isn't about strength. It's about what strength means when you have nothing left to fight for. He started as a ruthless conqueror, thinking power was everything. He ended as a dying king, realizing that strength means nothing without someone to protect. His final moments weren't in battle, but in the arms of the weakest person he knew. And that's why Meruem is different from every other OP villain. And this is why Meruem's ending stands out. Most overpowered villains are defeated. They lose, they break, or they get humiliated. Think of All for One and Sukuna as the most recent examples. But Meruem, he was never truly beaten. He never lost a fight. He never had his power invalidated. He didn't fall because he was weak. He fell because he was too powerful to be allowed to exist. Netero couldn't defeat him, so humanity used the bomb. The bomb couldn't kill him. It was the poison that took effect. And even then, he spent his last moments in peace, choosing love over power. Meruem's downfall wasn't just satisfying, it was inevitable. The strongest being in the world lost to the one thing he could never surpass, his own humanity. And this is a message to all OP villains and what they can take from Meruem. Meruem is the perfect example of what an OP villain should be. And even outside of that, he's just one of the best antagonists in all of anime entirely. He stayed OP without losing credibility. His growth was earned and meaningful. And his ending wasn't just tragic, it was poetic. And this is what every anime should learn when creating an overpowered character. For power alone doesn't make a great villain. It's what they do with it that matters. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think makes a great overpowered villain? Did Meruem's ending hit just as hard for you? And who else do you think is a great representative of what an overpowered character is? If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a like, comment below, and subscribe. Thank you for watching as always, and until next time, ciao.